The smell hit me first, yeast and butter mingling with something darker, richer. Chocolate, maybe, or caramel burning at the edges. I pushed open the glass door of Marcello's bakery, and the little bell above chimed, a sound so ordinary it almost made me forget the weight pressing against my chest. Almost. "Mama, look!" Danny's voice pierced through my fog, high and excited. His small hand tugged at mine, sticky from the lollipop the pharmacy clerk had given him 10 minutes ago. "They have the dinosaur cookies." I forced my lips into something resembling a smile, the kind I'd perfected over 6 years of pretending everything was fine. The bakery was warm, almost stifling after the bite of November wind outside. My coat, secondhand, the lining torn at the left shoulder, suddenly felt too thin and too heavy all at once. "We'll see, baby," I murmured, knowing we couldn't afford dinosaur cookies, knowing we were here for the day-old bread bin in the back corner, the one Mrs. Marcello saved for customers like me. Customers who counted pennies, customers who wore shame like a second skin. Danny pressed his face against the display case, leaving a small cloud of breath on the glass. He was 5 now, with my dark hair and his father's eyes, those storm-gray eyes that still haunted my dreams. I looked away quickly, focusing instead on the white tiles beneath my worn sneakers. One was cracked, a thin line running through it like a scar. The bakery wasn't crowded. A few tables scattered near the window, most empty. An elderly couple in the corner, sharing a croissant. A woman with a laptop, typing furiously. Normal. Safe. Ordinary. I didn't notice him at first. My attention was on Danny, on keeping him from touching everything, on calculating how many meals I could stretch from $10. The fluorescent case lights made everything look too bright, too exposed. I felt like an insect under a microscope. Visible, vulnerable, specimen. Then the air changed. It was subtle, like the moment before lightning strikes. The hairs on my arms stood up beneath my threadbare sweater. Someone was looking at me, not casual looking, the kind that burns through clothing and skin, straight to bone. I turned slowly, instinctively placing my body between Danny and whoever it was, the back corner booth. My heart stopped. He sat in shadow, deliberately positioned so the overhead light didn't reach him fully. But I could see enough. The sharp line of his jaw, the dark suit that probably cost more than 6 months of my rent. The way he held his espresso cup, still, controlled, like everything about him was a weapon waiting to be deployed. 6 years. 6 years since I'd run, pregnant and terrified, with nothing but a backpack and the clothes I wore. 6 years since I'd changed my name, my hair color, my entire existence. 6 years of looking over my shoulder, jumping at shadows, teaching myself to be invisible. And here he was, Dante Ferretti, my ex-husband, father of my child, one of the most dangerous men on the eastern seaboard. His eyes, those impossibly gray eyes that Danny had inherited, locked onto mine. I watched his hand tighten around the espresso cup, the only sign of emotion in an otherwise perfectly controlled face. Behind him, I could make out the shape of at least 2 men, his security. Of course. Dante never went anywhere alone. The rational part of my brain screamed at me to run. Grab Danny and run. But my legs had turned to water, my feet rooted to the cracked tile floor. "Mama?" Danny tugged my hand again, oblivious. "Can we get the bread?" "I'm hungry." Dante's eyes shifted, dropped, landed on Danny. I watched something flicker across his face. Confusion first, then recognition, then something else entirely, something that made my blood run cold and hot simultaneously. His lips parted slightly, and even from 15 feet away, I could see his chest rise with a sharp intake of breath. He'd seen the eyes, his eyes. Staring back at him from a small face he'd never known existed. Time crystallized. The elderly couple kept eating. The laptop woman kept typing. Mrs. Marcello hummed behind the counter, arranging cannolis. The world continued spinning while mine shattered into 1,000 irreparable pieces. Dante stood. The movement was fluid, controlled, but I caught the slight tremor in his right hand before he clenched it into a fist. He was taller than I remembered, broader. The years had carved him into something harder, more dangerous. His dark hair was shorter now, styled with precision. A thin scar ran along his left cheekbone, new since I'd left. One of his security men moved forward, but Dante raised a hand. Stop. The gesture was minimal, but the man froze instantly, melting back into the shadows. Bella. My old name. The one I'd buried. His voice was exactly as I remembered. Low, rough, with that slight Italian accent that thickened when he was angry or aroused. I shoved that thought away, hard. Danny pressed closer to my leg, finally sensing something wrong, his small hand fisted in my coat. I think you have me confused with someone else, I said, and hated how my voice shook, how transparent the lie was. Dante took a step forward, then another. Each footfall deliberate, measured, a predator closing distance. Behind him, his men shifted. Too near the door now, I noticed. When had they moved? How had I missed them securing the exits? 6 years, Isabella, my real name. God, hearing it in his mouth felt like a brand. 6 years, and you give me that lie? He was close enough now that I could smell him. Sandalwood and something sharper, gunpowder maybe, or the particular scent of violence that clung to men like him. My body remembered that smell. Responded to it in ways I desperately wanted to deny. Please. The word came out broken. Please, just let us go. His eyes hadn't left Danny. My son had tucked himself partially behind me now, peeking out with those mirror image gray eyes. Curious, despite his fear. How old? Dante asked, but he already knew. I could see him calculating, counting backward. I said nothing. Isabella. Sharper now. A command. How old is he? 5. Danny answered for me, his voice small but clear. I'm 5.5, actually. My birthday was in June. I felt Dante's control slip, watched the mask crack just enough to show the fury beneath. His jaw clenched so hard I heard his teeth grind. When he spoke again, his voice was dangerously soft. A son. Not a question. An accusation. You were pregnant when you left. Mrs. Marcello had stopped humming. The laptop woman's fingers had gone still on the keys. The elderly couple was staring now, sensing drama or danger or both. I needed to move, needed to grab Danny and run and never stop running, but Dante was too close, and his men were at the door, and I was so tired of running. We should go, I whispered, but even I knew it was hopeless. Dante's hand shot out, not touching me but caging me, palm flat against the wall beside my head. He leaned in, and I was drowning in that smell, in the heat of him, in 6 years of fear and longing and rage all tangled together. You kept my son from me. Each word was a bullet. You ran. You hid. You made me believe you were dead. You made me afraid to be alive. I shot back, finding some fragment of spine. What did you expect me to do? His free hand lifted, and I flinched instinctively, but he didn't strike. Instead, his fingers brushed my cheek, so gentle it hurt worse than a blow. His thumb traced the dark circle under my eye, the evidence of too many sleepless nights. I expected you to trust me. His voice had gone rough, raw. I expected you to be my wife. I was never your wife, I said bitterly. I was your possession. Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. Yes, he agreed, and the honesty of it stole my breath. Mine. Always mine. Did you really think I'd let you go? Danny whimpered, and the sound snapped something in me. I shoved at Dante's chest, useless, like pushing a wall. But it made my point. You're scaring him. Dante's eyes dropped to Danny again, and I watched him visibly force himself to step back, to give us space, but his hands were shaking now, fine tremors running through powerful fingers. What's his name? A different tone. Softer. Dangerous in a new way. Danny. I pulled my son against me, wrapping my arms around his small body. Daniel. After your father. Dante's voice held something I couldn't identify. You gave him your father's name. Before I could respond, the bell above the door chimed. A man entered. Expensive suit, cold eyes, moving with the particular grace of professional violence. He headed straight for Dante, leaning close to whisper something. I watched Dante's expression harden, watched him glance at the window, at something or someone outside. When he looked back at me, his face had transformed into the mask I remembered. The Don, the boss, the man who controlled empires built on blood and fear. We're leaving. Not a request. He gestured to his men. Secure the car. Clear the street. We're not going anywhere with you, I said, hating how weak I sounded. Dante's smile was sharp enough to draw blood. Isabella, my love, my wife who ran away with my child. He stepped close again, his hand curling around my jaw, possessive, claiming, you have two choices. Come with me now, willingly, and we'll discuss this like civilized people, or I carry you both out of here and we discuss it my way. That's kidnapping. That's family. His grip tightened fractionally. That's my son you've been hiding. That's my blood running through his veins. Did you really think I wouldn't move heaven and hell to get him back? To get you back? The way he said you made my skin prickle, like I was the prize, like Danny was secondary. Mama? Danny's voice was scared now, really scared. I looked down at my son, this beautiful, innocent child who knew nothing of his father's world, who I'd worked so hard to protect from violence and darkness and the weight of a family name that drowned more men than it saved. Then I looked back at Dante, saw the obsession burning in those gray eyes, the possession, the absolute certainty that we belonged to him, had always belonged to him, would forever belong to him, and I knew, with horrible clarity, that running was no longer an option, that the moment he'd seen Danny's eyes, my freedom had ended, again. If I come, I said slowly, you swear he stays safe. You swear you won't let your world touch him. Dante's expression shifted, surprise, maybe that I was negotiating. He's my son. I would die before I let anything harm him. Your world harms everything it touches. Then I'll change my world, said with such conviction I almost believed him. Almost. His hand moved from my jaw to the back of my neck, fingers tangling in my hair the way they used to. The gesture was intimate, possessive, terrifyingly familiar. Come home, Isabella. You've been cold and hungry and scared for 6 years. Let me fix it. Let me take care of you both. His voice dropped to a whisper only I could hear. Let me show you what you've been missing. Before I could answer, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his face went deadly. We need to move, now. He looked at one of his men. Marco, bring the car to the back. Clear the... The window exploded. Glass rained down like deadly snow. I felt Dante's body slam into mine, driving me backward as the sound of the explosion registered. Sharp, brutal, real. We hit the floor hard, his weight crushing me, protective and suffocating all at once. Danny! I screamed, but the sound was swallowed by chaos. Gunfire. Actual gunfire. The sharp crack, crack, crack of bullets tearing through the bakery. I heard Mrs. Marcello shrieking, the laptop woman sobbing, the shattering of more glass. Dante's men were returning fire, their weapons appearing from nowhere. And suddenly, the cozy neighborhood bakery had transformed into a war zone. Stay down, Dante growled against my ear. His hand pressed my head into his chest, the other reaching for something at his back. A gun. Of course he had a gun. My son. Where's my son? I thrashed beneath him, panic obliterating rational thought. Marco has him. Behind the counter. Safe. His voice was utterly calm, like this was normal. Like our child wasn't cowering in a bakery while bullets flew overhead. Another explosion, closer this time. The front door blew inward, smoke billowing through the opening. I couldn't see anything, just shapes moving through the haze. The acrid smell of gunpowder burning my throat, making me cough. Dante shifted, rising to his knees while keeping me pinned with one arm. I heard him fire. Once, twice, 3 times. Methodical. Precise. Somewhere in the smoke, someone screamed. East exit now! He barked at his men. Then, to me, can you run? I nodded, though I wasn't sure my legs would hold me. He hauled me up with one hand, the other keeping his weapon trained on the smoke-filled entrance. Through the chaos, I could see Marco, the man who'd whispered to Dante earlier, crouched behind the counter with Danny clutched against his chest. My son's face was buried in the stranger's suit jacket, his small body shaking. "Cover!" Dante shouted, and suddenly we were moving. He pulled me through the bakery, navigating the destruction with the ease of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. We vaulted over an overturned table, glass crunching under our feet. Behind us, I heard more gunfire, more shouting in Italian, sharp, angry commands I couldn't understand. Marco was already at the back door, Danny still in his arms. Another of Dante's men, I hadn't even seen where he came from, kicked the door open, weapon drawn, checking the alley beyond. Clear. We burst into the cold November afternoon. The alley was narrow, dingy, smelling of rotting garbage and motor oil. A black SUV sat running, back door already open. The windows were tinted so dark they looked like pools of oil. "Get in," Dante commanded, practically throwing me toward the vehicle. I scrambled inside, my hands shaking so violently I could barely grip the leather seat. Marco climbed in after me, and suddenly Danny was in my arms, solid, warm, alive. I buried my face in his hair, breathing him in, checking frantically for injuries. You're okay, baby, I've got you." "Mama, that was so loud." His voice was thin, terrified. Why were those men shooting? I had no answer. No words that would make sense of this nightmare. Dante slid in beside me, slamming the door. "Drive. Take the river route." The driver, another man I didn't know, punched the accelerator, and we shot forward. I was pressed back against the seat. Danny clutched to my chest. Dante's body a solid wall of heat and danger beside me. Through the back window, I could see smoke rising from the bakery. People were running into the street, some screaming, some recording with their phones. In the distance, sirens wailed. Police, probably, or ambulances. Too late. Always too late. "What the hell was that?" I demanded, my voice shrill with adrenaline and terror. Who were those people? Dante didn't look at me. His eyes were fixed on his phone, fingers moving rapidly across the screen. Enemies. They've been watching me for weeks, waiting for an opening. An opening? An opening for what? Murder? In a goddamn bakery? "Isabella." His tone held warning. "Not now. Not now." I was shaking, rage and fear mixing into something explosive. "You brought this into our lives. They were already in your life." He finally looked at me, and the intensity in his eyes made me forget how to breathe. "The moment you became mine, the moment you carried my child, you became a target. Running didn't change that. Hiding didn't change that. It just made you vulnerable. I wanted to scream. Wanted to hit him. Wanted to grab Danny and throw myself from the moving vehicle. Consequences be damned. Instead, I held my son tighter and watched the city blur past the windows. We drove for 20 minutes, weaving through streets I didn't recognize. The SUV's interior was immaculate. All leather and dark wood, smelling of expensive cologne and gun oil. Danny had gone quiet against my chest, his breathing evening out. Shock, probably, or exhaustion. I pressed my lips to the top of his head and tried not to fall apart. Eventually, we turned onto a private drive. Trees lined both sides, tall, dense, deliberately positioned to hide whatever lay beyond. The SUV slowed as we approached a gate. Iron, at least 12 feet high, with security cameras mounted at intervals. The gate swung open without us stopping. We rolled through, and I caught glimpses of men positioned in the shadows. Guards. Armed guards protecting whatever fortress Dante had built. The house, if you could call it that, appeared gradually through the trees. It was massive, all stone and glass. Modern lines mixed with old-world architecture. 3 stories at least, sprawling across manicured grounds that probably cost more to maintain than I earned in a year. My chest tightened. This was his world. Power. Wealth. Violence wrapped in Italian marble and expensive taste. The SUV stopped beneath a covered entrance. Dante was out before the engine died, pulling open my door, reaching for Danny. "I'll carry him," he said. And it wasn't a request. I hesitated, every instinct screaming not to let my son go. But Danny was heavy in my arms, and I was shaking with exhaustion, and Dante's hands were already sliding beneath my boy's small body. Danny stirred as Dante lifted him. Those gray eyes, identical to his father's, blinking open with confusion. "Mama?" "I'm right here, baby." I scrambled out of the SUV, staying close. Dante held Danny with surprising gentleness, supporting his head, adjusting his grip when Danny's legs dangled awkwardly. For just a moment, watching them together, my son and the man I'd fled, something in my chest cracked. They looked right together, undeniably connected. Same eyes, same stubborn set to the jaw, same way of tilting their heads when confused. "Come," Dante said quietly, and walked toward the entrance. I followed because there was no other choice. Inside, the house was even more overwhelming. The foyer alone was larger than my entire apartment. Marble floors, a chandelier that probably cost 6 figures, artwork on the walls that looked old and priceless. Everything gleamed. Everything whispered of money and power, and a world I'd never truly belonged to. A woman appeared, older, Mediterranean features, dressed in a simple black dress. She looked at Dante with the kind of deference that comes from long service. "Mr. Ferretti, thank God you're safe. I've prepared the East Wing as you requested." "Thank you, Maria." Dante's voice had shifted again, taking on that commanding tone that made people move. "Have the doctor come immediately. I want them both checked." "We don't need a doctor," I protested. He finally looked at me, and the expression on his face silenced my objection. "You have glass in your hair, Isabella. Blood on your sleeve. You think I won't have you examined?" I glanced down. He was right. My coat sleeve was torn, a shallow cut running along my forearm. I hadn't even felt it happen. "Maria will show you to your rooms," Dante continued. "Shower. Change. The doctor will see you within the hour. Then we eat." "Rooms?" I echoed. "Dante, we can't stay here." "You can. You will." He shifted Danny in his arms, and my son, exhausted, confused, overwhelmed, had let his head drop against his father's shoulder. The gesture was so natural, so trusting, it made my throat close. "This is your home now, both of you." "This isn't our home. We have an apartment." "That apartment?" His voice went cold. "The one bedroom in the building with broken locks and mold in the bathroom? The one where you work 2 jobs and still can't afford to feed our son properly?" Heat flooded my face, shame and anger mixing. "How do you know about... Did you really think I stopped looking for you?" He stepped closer, and even with Danny between us, the intensity of his presence was suffocating. "I've known where you were for 3 months, Isabella. I've watched you struggle, watched you pretend to be someone else. Watched you raise my son in poverty while you were too proud or too stubborn or too scared to come home." The words hit like physical blows. "You knew? For 3 months? You knew?" I was waiting. His jaw clenched. "Waiting for the right moment, waiting to understand why you ran, waiting to decide whether I'd drag you back or let you keep pretending." His eyes burned into mine. "Then today happened, and my enemies made the decision for me." "Your enemies," I repeated bitterly. "Everything always comes back to your enemies. Your world, your violence. Yes, no shame, no apology. But now it's your world again too, and this time, I won't let you leave." Maria cleared her throat delicately. "Sir, the rooms?" Dante nodded, but his eyes never left mine. "Go with Maria. Shower, eat, rest. Tonight after Danny's asleep, we'll talk. Really talk." "And Isabella?" He leaned in, his breath warm against my ear. "Don't try to run. I have men on every exit, cameras on every road. You're home now. You're mine again. Accept it." Then he turned and walked away, carrying our son up a grand staircase I hadn't even noticed. Danny's head stayed on his shoulder, small arms wrapped loosely around his father's neck. I stood frozen in that overwhelming foyer, Maria waiting patiently beside me, the weight of Dante's words pressing down like a physical force. Mine again, as if I'd ever stopped being his. As if 6 years of freedom had been nothing but borrowed time, and now the debt had come due. "Mrs. Ferretti," Maria's voice was gentle. "Shall we?" I didn't correct her. Didn't say I wasn't Mrs. Ferretti anymore. had stopped being her the moment I fled in the night with nothing but fear and determination. Instead, I nodded and followed her deeper into the beautiful prison Dante had built. For us, for his family, for the possession he'd never truly lost. The room Maria led me to was obscene in its luxury, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking gardens that stretched endlessly, furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum, a bed large enough to sleep 5 people comfortably. The bathroom was all marble and gold fixtures, with a shower that had more jets than I could count. I stood in the center of it all, still wearing my torn coat, still shaking from adrenaline, and wanted to scream. Instead, I locked the door and turned on the shower as hot as it would go. The water scalded, turning my skin pink, but I welcomed the pain. It was real. Grounding. I scrubbed glass fragments from my hair, watched blood from the cut on my arm swirl down the drain, and tried not to think about how Dante had looked holding Danny, how right it had seemed, how terrified that made me. Clean clothes had been laid out on the bed when I emerged. Expensive, tailored to fit me perfectly. Of course they were. He'd been watching for 3 months. He knew my size. Probably knew everything about the life I'd built without him. The thought made my skin crawl. I dressed mechanically. Soft cashmere sweater, dark jeans that fit like they'd been made for me, underwear that was probably worth more than my weekly grocery budget. Everything was in my preferred colors, my style. More evidence of his surveillance, his obsession. A knock at the door made me jump. "Mrs. Ferretti? The doctor is here." I opened it to find Maria and an older man with kind eyes and a medical bag. He examined me efficiently, professional, declaring the cut on my arm superficial and my vital signs stable despite the shock. He gave me something for the shaking. A small pill I didn't take, palming it instead when he wasn't looking. "Your son is fine as well," he said as he packed his bag. "Strong boy. Mr. Ferretti is with him now." Of course he was. Probably filling Danny's head with stories, with promises, with the seductive pull of a father's love my son had never known. After the doctor left, Maria guided me through hallways that seemed to multiply, each one more opulent than the last. We passed rooms I couldn't begin to name. Libraries, sitting rooms, what looked like a private gym. Everything whispered of wealth so old and deep it had lost meaning. Finally, we reached another wing entirely. Maria opened a door, and I heard it immediately, Danny's laughter. My feet moved before my brain caught up. The room was clearly designed for a child, though it looked nothing like the cramped corner of our apartment where Danny slept. Here, there were toys I recognized from commercials, books stacked on custom shelves, a bed shaped like a race car. And in the middle of it all, Dante sat cross-legged on an expensive rug, helping Danny build something with blocks. "See, you put this one here," Dante was saying, his voice softer than I'd heard it in years. "Then the tower stays balanced. Like this?" Danny placed a block carefully, his tongue poking out in concentration, a habit that was pure me. "Exactly like that. You're good at this. Mama says I'm good at building. She says I can be an architect when I grow up." Something flickered across Dante's face. "Your mama is right. You can be anything you want." They hadn't noticed me yet. I stood in the doorway, watching this impossible scene. My son and his father, playing together like this was normal, like bullets hadn't been flying hours ago. Like our lives hadn't just been irrevocably shattered. Danny looked up then, his face breaking into a smile. "Mama, look what Dante taught me." Dante. Not this man, or the scary guy. Just Dante, like they'd known each other forever. "I see, baby." I moved into the room, hyper-aware of Dante's eyes tracking my movement. "That's a very tall tower. Dante says tomorrow he'll show me the garden. There's a pond with fish." Danny's excitement was genuine, uncomplicated. He had no idea what any of this meant. No idea we were trapped. "That sounds nice." I knelt beside them, needing to be close to my son. "Are you feeling okay? After... earlier?" Danny's smile dimmed slightly. "The loud noises were scary, but Dante says it was just fireworks. People celebrating." My eyes snapped to Dante's. Fireworks. He'd lied to our son about gunfire, about an assassination attempt, about the violence that had nearly killed us all. Fireworks, I repeated flatly. Dante's expression was unreadable. Unexpected celebration. Nothing to worry about now. Danny, sweetheart, why don't you play with these toys for a minute? I need to talk to Dante. My son nodded, already distracted by a remote-controlled car he'd discovered. I stood, jerking my head toward the door. Dante rose with that fluid grace that reminded me he was dangerous, following me into the hallway. The moment the door closed, I rounded on him. Fireworks? You told him it was fireworks? What would you have me say? His voice was level, controlled. That his father's enemies tried to murder us in a bakery, that he'll never be safe because of who I am? He's 5 years old, Isabella. Exactly. He's 5, and you've already dragged him into your nightmare, our nightmare. He stepped closer, backing me against the wall. The moment you conceived him, he became part of this world, my blood, my legacy, my responsibility. He's not your legacy. He's a child. He's my son. The words were fierce, possessive. Mine. And I will protect him with my life, do you understand? Every man in this house would die before they let harm touch him. Can you say the same about that apartment? About your waitressing job where drunk men corner you by the bathroom? About walking home alone at night through streets I wouldn't let my enemies traverse? His words struck too close. There had been incidents. A customer who'd grabbed my wrist, a man who'd followed me 3 blocks before I ducked into a convenience store. Small violences I'd accepted as the price of freedom. At least there I was free, I whispered. Free? He laughed. But there was no humor in it. You were barely surviving, working yourself to exhaustion, feeding our son pasta 3 nights a week because you couldn't afford more. That's not freedom, Isabella. That's suffering. And you chose it over me. I chose it over being your prisoner. You were never my prisoner. His hand came up, cupping my face with unexpected gentleness. You were my wife, my partner, the only person I trusted completely. Until I wasn't. The old wound opened fresh, until I became just another possession you locked away. Pain flashed across his features. Is that what you think? That I didn't love you? I think you loved owning me. My voice cracked. There's a difference. He was silent for a long moment, his thumb tracing my cheekbone. When he spoke again, his voice was raw. After you left, I tore this city apart looking for you. I called in every favor, threatened every contact, put a price on information so high that men sold their own mothers for a chance at it. For 6 months, I barely slept, barely ate. I became a ghost of myself because you were gone. Dante, when I finally accepted you might be dead, something in me died too. I became harder, crueler. My enemies learned to fear me in new ways because I had nothing left to lose. His forehead pressed against mine. Then 3 months ago I saw you, walking out of that grocery store with Danny, laughing at something he'd said. And I felt alive again, whole again. Like I could finally breathe. Tears burned my eyes. You should have let me go. Never. The word was absolute. I would burn this entire world down before I let you go again. That's not love. That's obsession. Yes. He didn't even try to deny it. I'm obsessed with you. I was obsessed with you the moment I met you. Some waitress who spilled coffee on my suit and apologized with fire in her eyes instead of fear. I was obsessed when I married you. I'm obsessed now, and I will be obsessed until I stop breathing. His intensity was overwhelming, terrifying, and somewhere deep inside, thrilling in a way I desperately wanted to deny. This won't work, I said weakly. We can't go back. We're not going back. His hand slid to my waist, pulling me closer. We're starting over. But this time, you'll see what I should have shown you before. This time, I'll prove that I can give you everything. Safety, comfort, a father for our son. Everything except freedom to leave. That's the only thing I want. Liar. His lips brushed my ear. If that were true, you wouldn't be trembling right now. You wouldn't have that flush on your cheeks. You wouldn't remember what it was like between us. I did remember. God help me. I remembered everything. The passion that had consumed us both. The way he'd made me feel desired, protected, cherished. Right up until I'd felt suffocated instead. Danny needs stability. I tried, grasping for any argument. Not this chaos. Danny needs his father. He needs a home where he's safe, where his mother isn't exhausted, where he can have dinosaur cookies whenever he wants them. Dante pulled back just enough to meet my eyes. Stay. Give me a chance to prove I can be what you both need. And if I refuse? His smile was sad. Then I keep you here anyway, but I'd rather you chose us. A sound from Danny's room, something falling, followed by his little voice calling, "I'm okay," broke the tension. I moved to check on him, but Dante's hand on my arm stopped me. There's something else you need to know. His expression had shifted, becoming more guarded. The attack today wasn't random. They targeted me because of a shipment, weapons that went missing 3 months ago, the same weapons your friend Marco stole before he disappeared. My blood went cold. Marco didn't steal anything. Isabella. His voice was gentle but firm. Marco worked for me. He stole 50 military-grade weapons and sold them to my enemies, then he vanished. His wife, your friend Sarah, came to me, begging for mercy, claiming she knew nothing. Sarah. Sweet, pregnant Sarah, who'd helped me find an apartment, who'd watched Danny when I worked double shifts, who'd disappeared 2 weeks ago without a word. "Where is she?" I demanded. "What did you do to her?" "Nothing. I gave her money and told her to run. She was innocent. I could see that. But Marco..." His jaw tightened. "Marco betrayed me, and betrayal in my world has only one consequence. You killed him. I did what had to be done. No remorse, no apology. Just cold fact. I felt sick. Sarah had lost her husband. Her baby would grow up without a father. All because of this world, this violence that touched everything like acid. This is why I ran," I whispered. "This is why I took Danny and never looked back. Because this is what you are, what you do." "Yes." He didn't flinch from the accusation. "This is what I am, and you knew that when you married me. The difference is, now I'm willing to shield you from it, keep you separate. Let you and Danny live without seeing the darkness. We're already drowning in it. No." His grip tightened. "You're protected by it. Every man who might have hurt you, every threat that might have touched our son, I eliminated them before you even knew they existed. That apartment you lived in, I bought the building. Your landlord worked for me. The grocery store, the pharmacy, even the school Danny was supposed to start next year. All mine, all watching, all keeping you safe while you played at independence." The revelation staggered me. Nothing had been real. My freedom, my choices, my life, all of it had been an illusion. A stage set Dante had constructed and controlled from the shadows. "You're a monster," I breathed. "Yes," he agreed simply. "But I'm your monster, and I'm done letting you pretend otherwise." He kissed me then, hard, possessive, claiming, and I hated myself for the way my body responded, for the way 6 years of absence melted away under the familiar heat of his mouth. When he pulled back, we were both breathing hard. "Dinner is in an hour," he said, voice rough. "Wear the blue dress in your closet. We're eating as a family tonight." Then he was gone, leaving me shaking in the hallway, my lips still burning from his kiss, my world completely shattered and rebuilt in his image. A family. As if we'd ever been anything but a collision of obsession and fear. As if I had any choice but to play my part in the beautiful, terrible life he'd designed for us. The blue dress fit perfectly. Of course it did. Dante had probably measured me in my sleep during one of his surveillance sessions. The thought should have terrified me. It did terrify me, but there was also something darkly intimate about it. He'd been watching, waiting, planning this reunion while I'd been oblivious, thinking I was free. I found them in the dining room, a space so grand it made me feel like an imposter. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over a table that could seat 20, though only 3 places were set. At the far end, near windows overlooking gardens now lit by subtle landscape lighting, Dante sat with Danny beside him. My son was laughing at something, his face animated in a way I hadn't seen in months. He looked happy, comfortable, like he belonged in this world of marble and money. It broke something inside me. "Mama." Danny spotted me, waving enthusiastically. "Come see? There's 5 forks. Dante says each one is for different food." "That's wonderful, baby." I moved toward them, hyper-aware of Dante's eyes tracking every step. He'd changed too. Dark slacks, a white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms corded with muscle and marked with scars I didn't remember. Evidence of the violence he'd lived while I was gone. He stood as I approached, that old-world courtesy that had charmed me once, pulled out my chair, the one beside Danny, across from him. Close enough to touch if he reached across the table, close enough that I couldn't escape his presence. "You look beautiful," he said quietly, and the sincerity in his voice made my throat tight. "Thank you." I sat, smoothing the dress over my knees. Danny immediately grabbed my hand, chattering about the fish in the pond, the toys in his room, how Dante had promised to teach him to play chess tomorrow. Like we'd be here tomorrow. Like this was our life now. Maria and another woman I didn't know brought food, course after course of Italian delicacies that smelled divine. Homemade pasta with sauce that probably took hours, fresh bread that melted on the tongue, vegetables roasted in herbs I couldn't name, and for Danny, chicken tenders shaped like dinosaurs. My son's eyes went wide. "You remembered." Dante smiled, genuinely smiled, and the transformation was startling. "Of course I remembered. You mentioned them earlier. These are way better than the ones at the bakery." Danny bit into one enthusiastically. "Mama, try one." I took a small bite of the dinosaur tender, and it was delicious. Nothing like the frozen ones I bought at the discount store. Everything here was better, richer, more, a constant reminder of what I couldn't provide. "How long have you been planning this?" I asked Dante, keeping my voice low so Danny wouldn't notice the edge. "The clothes, the room, the food. How long?" He took a sip of wine, deep red, probably older than me. 3 months, since the day I found you." "And the attack today? Was that planned too? Some elaborate scheme to force me back?" His expression darkened. "No, that was real. My enemies are circling Isabella. They sense weakness. They know I've been distracted. Distracted by stalking your ex-wife. Distracted by ensuring the safety of my family." He set down his glass with controlled precision. "There's a difference." Danny was oblivious to the tension, working through his dinosaurs with 5-year-old determination. I watched him, this beautiful child who'd been my entire world, and felt it shifting beneath me, felt Dante inserting himself into every corner of our lives. "Tell me about the past 6 years," Dante said suddenly. "I want to know everything." "Why?" "You already know. You've been watching." "I know facts. I don't know how you felt, what you thought. Why you chose poverty over everything I could give you." I looked at him then, really looked. There were new lines around his eyes, a hardness to his jaw that hadn't been there before. The scar on his cheekbone was still pink, recent. He'd suffered too. Maybe not the same way I had, but suffered nonetheless. "I chose safety over luxury," I said finally. "I chose peace over chaos. And were you peaceful?" His eyes bore into mine. "Were you safe?" I thought about the nights I'd cried myself to sleep, exhausted and scared. The times I'd skipped meals so Danny could eat. The constant fear that Dante would find us. That his world would reach out and drag us back. I was free. "You keep saying that word like it means something." He leaned forward, elbows on the table. "But freedom without security is just a prettier name for suffering. And security without freedom is just a prettier name for a cage. Then I'll build you a cage so beautiful you'll forget it's a prison." The words hung between us, terrible and honest. Danny had finished eating, his attention now on the garden outside. "Can I go see the fish, please?" Dante nodded. "Marco will take you. Stay where he can see you." As if summoned, Marco appeared. The same man who'd protected Danny in the bakery. He offered my son his hand, and Danny took it without hesitation, already halfway to trusting these strangers who'd invaded our lives. I watched them go, feeling Dante's presence intensify now that we were alone. "He likes you," I said bitterly. "You've been here one day, and he already likes you. He's my son. Of course he likes me. No arrogance, just simple fact. Blood recognizes blood. Blood doesn't make you a father. No, but I intend to earn that title." He stood, moving around the table until he was beside me. Close. Too close. Let me tell you what the past 6 years have been like for me, Isabella. Since you're so curious about my suffering. I wanted to move away, but pride kept me still. The first month I was feral. I hurt people. Good people. Because I needed someone to blame. I turned this city inside out looking for clues. When I found nothing, I assumed the worst. That you were dead. That someone had taken you to hurt me. His hand came to rest on the back of my chair, caging me without touching. Month 6, I held your memorial. Spoke words I didn't believe because some part of me knew you were alive. I could feel it. But I went through the motions because everyone expected me to move on. Dante. Year 2, I became someone I didn't recognize. Colder, more ruthless. My enemies started calling me Il Fantasma, the ghost, because I moved through their ranks like death itself. I eliminated threats with efficiency that would have horrified the man you married. His voice had gone rough, heavy with memory. Year 4, I started seeing you everywhere. In crowds, in cars passing by. I'd chase these ghosts, these women who look nothing like you, because I was losing my mind. My associates staged an intervention, told me I needed to let you go. I broke 3 of their ribs and continued searching. I closed my eyes, not wanting to hear this, not wanting to feel sympathy for the man who'd trapped me. Then 3 months ago, I saw him first. Danny, walking out of that grocery store with dinosaur fruit snacks. And I knew. I knew before I even saw your face. That was my blood. My son. And you'd kept him from me. His hand moved to my chin, tilting my face up, forcing me to meet his eyes. I wanted to rage, to drag you both back immediately, to punish you for every day I'd missed, every milestone I wasn't there for. But I waited. Watched. Tried to understand why you'd run. And do you know what I realized? I couldn't speak. Could barely breathe. I realized I'd never actually asked you to stay. I'd assumed your compliance, assumed your love. I'd given you luxury and protection, but never partnership, never choice. I'd made you my wife without ever asking if you wanted to be. Tears blurred my vision. You're doing the same thing now. You haven't asked. You've just taken. Because this time, I can't risk you saying no. His thumb wiped away a tear that had escaped. This time, the stakes are too high. Danny needs both his parents. And I need you. I've always needed you. More than I need air. That's not love, Dante. That's desperation. It's both. He pulled me to my feet, and suddenly we were chest to chest, his heart pounding against mine. I'm desperately, obsessively, irrevocably in love with you. I have been since you spilled that coffee. And yes, I'm possessive. Yes, I'm controlling. Yes, I'm probably too damaged to love you the way normal men do. But I'm trying. I'm trying to be better. For you. For him. By holding us prisoner, by keeping you safe. His hands framed my face. There are 17 active threats against my organization right now. 17 groups who would love to hurt me by hurting you. By hurting our son. In that apartment you were exposed. Vulnerable. One wrong person asking the right questions. And Danny would have been leverage. Do you understand? They would have taken him. Tortured him. Used him to break me. And it would have worked. The horror of his words sank in slowly. You're trying to scare me. I'm trying to make you understand reality. His voice was fierce. This isn't about ownership. It's about survival. My world is ugly and violent, and I hate that my son was born into it. But he was. And the only way to protect him is to keep him close, to surround him with men who would die for him. To make sure everyone knows that touching him means war. He's 5 years old. He should be worried about kindergarten, not war. And he will be. Here, he can be a child. He can play and learn and grow up without ever seeing the darkness. But out there, he gestured toward the windows. Out there, he's a target, a weakness, the son of a man with too many enemies. I wanted to argue, wanted to find holes in his logic. But deep down, I knew he was right. The attack at the bakery proved it. They'd found us. They'd tried to kill us. And if Dante hadn't been there, I hate this, I whispered. I hate that you're right. I know. He pressed his forehead to mine. I hate it too. But this is the world I built, and now we all have to live in it. Through the windows, I could see Danny crouched by the pond, Marco standing guard nearby. My son was pointing at something in the water, his mouth moving in excited chatter. He looked safe, happy, protected. Everything I'd tried so hard to give him, and failed. If I stay, I said slowly, things have to change. I'm not the girl who married you. I won't be locked away like some treasure you've collected. I don't want you locked away. His hand slid down to my waist. I want you beside me, my partner, my equal. Equal? I almost laughed. How can I be your equal when you control everything? Then tell me what you need. What would make this bearable? I pulled back, looking at him. This dangerous, obsessive man who'd destroyed my peace and rebuilt it in his image. I need to know Danny will grow up with choices, that he won't be forced into your world. Done, he chooses his own path. I need to be able to work, to have purpose beyond being your wife. He hesitated, and I saw the struggle. The possessive need to keep me close warring with his desire to give me what I'd asked for. Working in the city is too dangerous, he said finally. But I have legitimate businesses, restaurants, real estate, imports. You could manage any of them, build something of your own. It wasn't freedom, but it was more than I'd expected, and I need you to promise that if I truly can't bear this, if it becomes too much, you'll let me go. His expression shuddered. No. Dante? No, Isabella. His voice was absolute. I'll give you anything else, anything in my power, but I will never let you leave again. That's the one thing I can't promise. Honesty, at least. Brutal and unwavering. Then this isn't a negotiation. It's surrender. It's survival. He kissed me then, softer than before. For all of us. And maybe, if I'm very lucky, eventually it will be more. Outside, Danny's laughter carried through the glass. Pure, innocent, unaware of the bargains being struck in his name. And I realized with terrible clarity that I'd already made my choice. Not for love, not for freedom, but for him. For the safety only Dante's world could provide. I was home, in the beautiful, terrible prison I'd never truly escaped. And this time, I wouldn't run. The weeks that followed felt like learning to breathe underwater, necessary, unnatural, and occasionally suffocating. Dante kept his promises, at least the ones he'd made. Danny started at a private school 10 minutes away, driven each morning by Marco and 2 other guards in an armored SUV that looked civilian enough not to scare the other children. My son adapted with the resilience of childhood, making friends, bringing home artwork that got displayed on the refrigerator in our enormous kitchen like we were any normal family. We weren't normal. We would never be normal, but we pretended, and the pretending became almost real. I took over management of Dante's restaurant portfolio, 3 upscale establishments that required oversight, staffing decisions, menu consultations, real work, meaningful work, the kind that made me feel less like a possession and more like a person. Dante had an office set up for me in the East Wing, all glass and natural light, where I could work without feeling trapped. He was trying. I could see that. Could feel it in the way he asked before assuming, in how he included me in decisions about Danny's education, his activities, his life. We ate dinner together every night, Dante, Danny, and me, like some twisted Norman Rockwell painting where the father happened to run a criminal empire. The physical distance he maintained was harder to interpret. He'd kiss me goodnight, chaste, controlled, but never pushed for more, never demanded the intimacy that had once burned between us. It was like he was courting me all over again, trying to earn what he'd once simply taken. It was maddening. And somewhere in the 3rd week, I realized I missed him, missed us. The thought terrified me more than any threat from his enemies. Danny's 6th birthday arrived in early June, warm and bright. Dante had transformed the gardens into something from a children's fantasy. Bouncy castles, pony rides, a magician who made doves appear from thin air. He'd invited families from Danny's school, their parents eyeing our home with barely disguised envy and curiosity. I played hostess, making small talk with mothers who didn't know their sons played with the child of a crime lord. Dante worked the crowd with practiced charm, just another wealthy businessman celebrating his son. No one would have guessed the security detail positioned strategically throughout the property, or the background checks run on every family before they'd received an invitation. "He looks happy," Maria said quietly, appearing beside me with a tray of drinks. She'd become something like a friend over the weeks. My guide through this world. My buffer when Dante's intensity became too much. I watched Danny on the bouncy castle, shrieking with laughter as he jumped with 3 other boys. "He does," I admitted. I thought taking him from the life I built would hurt him, but he's thriving. Children need stability more than they need struggle. Maria's voice was gentle but firm. "You gave him love when you had nothing else. Now Mr. Ferretti gives him everything, including that love. Together, you're complete. We're not together. Not really." She gave me a look that said she wasn't fooled. "You live under the same roof, raise your son together. He looks at you like you hung the moon. You look at him like you're afraid to want him. That's together, Mrs. Ferretti, just complicated." Before I could respond, Dante appeared, Danny riding on his shoulders. My son's face was painted like a tiger, his hands sticky with cake frosting. "Mama! Did you see me jump? I jumped higher than everyone." "I saw, baby. You were amazing." I reached up to wipe frosting from his chin, and my hand brushed Dante's cheek. The contact was electric, his eyes darkening as they met mine. "Can I go play more?" Danny asked. "Please?" "Stay where Marco can see you," Dante said, lowering him to the ground. Danny took off running, and we were left standing close, the party swirling around us. "Thank you," I said quietly. "For this. For making his day special. He's my son. I'd give him the world." His hand found the small of my back, familiar and possessive. "I'd give you both the world. You already have." Something shifted in his expression. Have I? Or have I just built a prettier cage? The honesty startled me. "I don't know anymore. The lines are blurry. Isabella." He turned me to face him fully, oblivious to the parents watching us with interest. "I need to tell you something. There's been a development." My stomach dropped. "What kind of development?" "The men who attacked us at the bakery. I found them. All of them." His voice was calm, but I could see the violence lurking beneath. "They're no longer a threat. You killed them. I protected my family. No remorse. But in the process, I discovered who hired them, who's been orchestrating the attacks against my organization." He paused, and I knew I wasn't going to like what came next. "It was Romano, Vittorio Romano, my former associate, your friend Sarah's husband, Marco's cousin." The ground tilted. "But Marco is dead. You said—" "I said I handled the betrayal. I didn't say I killed him." Dante's jaw tightened. "Marco disappeared after stealing from me. Went underground. I assumed he'd run, maybe fled the country. But he's been here the entire time, working with Romano to dismantle everything I've built. Why are you telling me this? Because tomorrow I'm ending it. Romano, Marco, everyone connected to this conspiracy. And I need you to know why. Need you to understand that this isn't about power or pride. It's about eliminating the threat to our family. Our family." As if Danny and I had fully integrated into his world, his life, his violence. "You're asking for permission." "No." His thumb traced my jaw. "I'm asking for understanding. There's a difference." I looked past him, at Danny playing in the garden, at the normal suburban families celebrating my son's birthday, at the beautiful illusion we'd constructed, and I realized that Dante was right. I did understand. Hated it, but understood it. "Will you be safe?" The question escaped before I could stop it. His smile was slight but genuine. "Worried about me, Isabella? Worried about Danny losing his father right after finding him. Liar." He leaned close, his breath warm against my ear. "You're worried about me. About us. Admit it." I pushed him back, heat flooding my cheeks. "Don't confuse concern with forgiveness. I'll take what I can get." He pressed a kiss to my forehead, tender, claiming, "Wait up for me tomorrow night. When I come home, we need to talk. Really talk." "About what?" "About where we go from here, about whether this is still a cage or if it's become something else." His eyes held mine. About whether you're ready to stop running from what's between us." He left before I could respond, disappearing into the house with 2 of his men. Business, probably. The kind I didn't ask about. The kind that kept us safe and made me complicit. The party continued. Danny blew out his candles, making a wish I hoped had nothing to do with the violence lurking at the edges of his perfect day. Parents departed with goodie bags and thank yous, and gradually, the house settled into evening quiet. I put Danny to bed in his race car bed, reading him 3 stories and lying beside him until his breathing evened out. His hand clutched mine even in sleep, and I marveled at how quickly he'd accepted this new life. How resilient children were. How forgiving. When I finally extracted myself, heading toward my own room, I found Dante in the hallway, just standing there, tie loosened, looking exhausted and dangerous, and entirely too compelling. "Couldn't sleep?" I asked. "Didn't try." He pushed off the wall, moving toward me. "Been thinking about tomorrow, about what comes after, and what does come after. That depends on you." He stopped inches away. "I can keep living in this half-state, where you're here but not really mine, where we're partners in parenting but strangers in everything else, or, his hand came up, fingers threading through my hair. Or you let me back in, really in. Let me prove that this, us, can be more than obligation and fear." My heart hammered. "Dante, I don't know if I can. Don't decide now." His thumb traced my lower lip. "Tomorrow, after I've handled Romano, after the last threat to our family is eliminated, then decide. Decide if you want this marriage to be real again. If you want me the way I've never stopped wanting you." The want in his eyes was overwhelming. 6 years of denial, of distance, of desperate obsession, all focused on me. "What if I can't forgive you?" I whispered. "What if I can't forget what you are?" "Then I'll spend the rest of my life earning your forgiveness, proving I can be the man you need." He kissed me then, slow and deep, pouring years of longing into the contact. When he pulled back, we were both shaking. "But I think you've already started forgiving me. I think that scares you more than anything I've actually done." He was right. God help me, he was right. "Go," I said, my voice unsteady. "Do what you need to do. End this. Come home safe. Will you wait up for me?" I should have said no. Should have maintained the distance I'd fought so hard to keep. Instead, I nodded. His smile was devastating. "Then I'll have something to fight for." He left before dawn. I heard the SUVs depart, felt the house settle into tense waiting. Maria tried to keep Danny and me distracted. Cooking lessons, garden time, movies in the home theater. But the day dragged endlessly, each hour heavier than the last. Dinner came and went. Danny fell asleep on the couch during his movie, and I carried him to bed, marveling at how much heavier he'd gotten in just a few weeks. Better food, consistent meals, childhood finally allowed to flourish. 10 o'clock, 11, midnight. I paced the library, unable to settle. What was taking so long? Had something gone wrong? Was Dante hurt? Dead? The thought sent ice through my veins, sharp, terrifying. At 1:15 I heard vehicles approaching, doors slamming, low voices in Italian. I ran to the entrance, Maria appearing from nowhere to stand beside me. Dante walked through the door alone. His suit was torn, blood spattering the white shirt, but he was walking. Alive. Whole. Our eyes met across the foyer. "It's done," he said simply. "Romano, Marco, all of them. It's over." I crossed to him without thinking, my hands framing his face, checking for injuries. "You're hurt." "Not my blood." His hands covered mine. "Well, mostly not my blood." "You need a doctor. I need you." He pulled me against him and I felt him trembling. "I need to hold you and remember why I do this, why I become a monster. Because you and Danny are worth any amount of blood." I should have been horrified, should have pushed him away. Instead, I held him tighter. "I was terrified," I admitted against his chest. "All day I was terrified you wouldn't come back." "Isabella?" He tilted my face up. "I will always come back to you. Always. Death itself couldn't keep me away." "That's not comforting." It's honest. His kiss was desperate, tasting of violence and relief. Now tell me you're ready to stop fighting this. Stop pretending you don't feel it too. I looked at him. This dangerous, obsessive, impossibly complicated man who'd destroyed my peace and rebuilt it stronger. Who'd given our son everything I couldn't. Who looked at me like I was his salvation and his damnation wrapped together. I'm terrified, I whispered, of wanting you, of loving you again, of what that makes me. It makes you mine. His forehead pressed to mine, as I've always been yours. Say yes, Isabella. Say you'll stop running. Say you'll let this be real. Outside, dawn was breaking over the gardens. A new day. A new beginning. Or a recommitment to beautiful captivity. I wasn't sure which. Maybe both. Yes, I breathed and felt something lock into place. Yes, I'll stay. Really stay. Not because I'm trapped, but because this is home now. You're home. And I'm tired of pretending otherwise. His kiss was everything, claiming, celebrating, sealing the promise we'd both finally made. When we broke apart, he was smiling. Took you long enough. Really smiling. Shut up and kiss me again, he did. And for the first time in 6 years, I kissed him back without reservation, without fear. Choosing him, choosing us. Choosing this complicated, dangerous, beautiful life we'd build together. For Danny, for each other. For the family we'd almost lost, and somehow found again. The sun rose on our second beginning, and this time, I wasn't running toward freedom.